So welcome to part 3 of our belt pulley configuration video. So in this one, we're going to spend some time taking the creation from our last video and making it a really configurable part. And so I'm not going to recap very much. So if you haven't seen the other two, it might make sense to go watch those first. Um, with that, we're going to kind of jump right in. So we now have this drawing of a pulley, and a lot of it is pretty straightforward on how to draw it, but we wanted to add some configuration options. And um, when I originally drew this, I ended up using a lot of variables, and these variables are really useful because it allows you to easily go in and change things, and you can use that same variable across multiple sketches and extrudes and such. Okay. Um, OnShape in particular is really good about having good configuration management for a part. You saw a little bit of that configuration in the first, when we did the belts. You saw me use some of those configurations so that when you insert a part, you can set up a configuration panel. And we're going to do that with this part, but you'll see that there's going to be some more options and some more ways of doing things. So I already have one, which is the pitch diameter. And so this pitch diameter will allow me to easily change the diameter of the pulley. And I want to add options for other things. So some of the things I'd like to be able to do is I would like to, well, be able to specify the belt diameter. I currently have it in a variable, but I'd like to be able to pick the belt diameter out of a list. And so we're going to do that. I would also like to be able to have a range of options for shafts. There are very common shaft sizes in FIRST Robotics, for example, and those, if I had a table of those shaft sizes, I could allow the user to pick things. And there are also other shapes of bores I could potentially use. So there's a whole lot of options here available to us. So that's what we're going to start configuring. Now, I'm going to open up the configuration panel, and you can see that we currently have a pitch diameter, and it currently controls it controls the pitch diameter variable, and that is currently used in the pulley outline sketch, which is great. Okay, and so it's kind of nice that it'll show you where all your parameters being used. So what I'd now like to do is I'd actually like to control the belt diameter, and I'd like to be able to pick from a list. So I'm going to come down here, and the options are a list, a checkbox, which is an on-off switch, and a configuration variable, which is something that you type into. So the pitch diameter, for example, up here in the left-hand corner is a configuration variable, and that's how this is defined. So we are going to use a list, and that list is going to be belt sizes for that are available. So what are all the belt sizes? Well, I could have just put in a configuration and you could type in whatever belt size you want, or I can go to somewhere like McMaster.com and find the round belts category and look up round belting, and I can see that there are a fixed number of belt sizes available. And so I might as well make it so that you can use all of the belt sizes that you can buy. So here they are over here, okay? And so they're in fractional units and metric units, that's fine. So I'm gonna go back over here. Now what I did is I am actually using a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet over here on the side. And I've got some values in here. So I have the string names or the text names for all of the belts. And then I have values for all of those belts. And so a list requires a name or a text or something like that. And then it gets more strict about the values. So I can put anything I want over here, but these need to be numeric values. Okay, so I've showed you that because that's how I'm going to populate this list. But before I do that, I'm going to come over here, and on this list input, I'm going to rename this be called belt diameter. And if you watch in the upper, if you watch up here in the upper left, you can see that I misspelled belt. Okay, there we go. Well, you can see that this is already shown up here, and there's the list of possible values. Currently one just called default. Now, each one of these entries will allow you to control as many variables as you would like. For this first one, we're just going to do one variable, okay? And to do that, I can hit configure features, and it's now you can say it's saying select sketches or features to configure with belt diameter. So what that means is that I can go find anything inside any sketch or any variable to change. And it's amazing the flexibility that you have. You can turn features on and off. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. We're going to do the simple one. We're just going to set the value of belt diameter. So I've clicked on this, and there's its property sheet. And I want to change the value, and see that the yellow thing, the yellow highlighted thing is what's going to get changed. I would like to be able to control the value from my list. So I've clicked on value. If you come back over here and look on the right, you can see that hashtag belt diameter, that's this variable. The value, that's the field here, is being controlled by this number, okay? So that's what we wanted. So now I can type in something like two smoots is going to give me a belt diameter of 0.125, right? And 5 bongies is going to be something like a 0.375 belt, okay? And now that that's there, I can come over here and I can play with this. So I can, and watch what happens to the belt is a bongi makes it big, and there's 2 smoots, and there's 5 bongies, right? So again, what the name and the value are not necessarily related, other than that are on a row. So none of the numbers over here matter. So I'm going to actually go ahead and delete that row, and I'm actually going to go over to my spreadsheet. Here it is. So these are the values I would like to use in that table. So I'm going to do a copy. I'm going to slide this out of the way, and I'm going to come and click in that first thing. And there's right click paste doesn't work, but you can hit Control V if you're on a PC, or I think it's Command V on a Mac. And that will paste all of the values from that spreadsheet in here. And I can read down the list. I get all the way down to 8 millimeters. This last one was a turd row, so I'm going to get rid of it. So there are all of my possible values, okay? So with that relatively simple, straightforward parameter definition, I now am able to select all of the available belt sizes for round belt, okay? So that's pretty cool. All right. I think we're off and cooking with gas. Well, now I can control the pitch diameter, the belt diameter, so that's good. What else do I want to control down here? Well, how about whether there's actually, the shaft hole. Let's control the size of the shaft hole, okay? So I could actually just put in configuration variable. You could type in any dimension you wanted. Although I would actually, just for kicks, let's do another list, okay? And you'll see why is that the shaft is actually, if I put in just a dimension, then I'm going to be limited to round holes. But if I wanted to do other things like maybe a hex shaft or a D shaft, I'll put that in my list as well. Okay, so we are going to go shaft bore. Okay, and I want to control some stuff. Well, the first thing I want to control is the shaft bore variable and its value. And there it is. So there's a shaft bore value. So that's the first step in our shaft And the other thing I actually kind of want to be able to control is I'll eventually want to be able to control the shape. But actually, this actually looks like a good starting point. So we're going to start here. And again, over here, I had done this before. I didn't want to retype the whole list, so I actually could start at the top of my list over here and say that a 3/16 round is going to be 0.1875 in diameter, right? And then I can say, well, 5 millimeters round is well, that actually need to be 5 millimeters. And notice you can put the units in. It doesn't have to be in inches, so you can add your own units. So I'm going to cheat because I wanted to have a long list of selections. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab all of these and copy them, so I don't have to type them again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do a Control V. And I now have a whole list of different things. And I'm going to come down here and get rid of untitled because that's no longer needed. And I'm checking to make sure that everything looks about right. Okay, that all looks about right. So the shaft bore diameter is, you can see it's now over here. It's nice and functional. And I have the ability to pick rounds and shafts. And there's also one for a D shaft. We'll get to that a little bit later. All right, so that's pretty cool. Well, what if somebody selected none? If I don't want a shaft hole, what I'd really like to be able to do is to turn the bore of that shaft off so that it doesn't exist. Well, let's go ahead and do that. So I can control, it turns out, an extrude, and I want to, that's the shaft bore extrude, this guy here. I can actually control that. So I can go configure features, shaft bore extrude, and I can control any of these values up here, and it added one, and there's one that's called unsuppressed. When unsuppressed is on, the part is on. If I click on this, that becomes a controllable variable over here. See that? Okay, cool. So I'm done with that. And if I've selected none, well, you can see I'm still getting a hole. However, if I come over here and turn it off, the hole goes away. So that will suppress the generation of the hole. Okay. And then if I, well, you get the idea. So all the rest of these will control a round. Now it turns out the D shaft, I don't want a round hole, and hex shafts don't need a round hole. Okay. So I'll turn those off. So if somebody picked those, if somebody came down and said they wanted a hex, well, now there's no hole. Well, so what if somebody did come down and select the hex? I kind of want a hex shaft hole, don't I? So let's put that in real quick. So instead of the shaft bore round sketch, I'm going to do a new sketch. I'm going to put it in the same place, and we'll go look at it. And I'm going to put a hex hole. Okay, so the hex hole, the hex hole is going to be centered in the part. And I am going to come up here and I'm going to do an inscribed polygon. And I'm going to click on the center and I'm going to go out this way. Now I'm orienting this face very specifically so that it's oriented with the top plane. The top plane is this one here. See that? Or I'm sorry, front plane. See that front plane? I'm orienting this so that that flat is on the front plane, and I'll show you why in a sec. Okay, so I'm going to bring this guy out to about there. All right, and I want 6 sides. Whoops. So it's allowing me to change that. There we go. So there's a 6-sided guy. Now its size, I can just reuse the shaft bore size variable. So why don't I do that? I'm going to put a dimension on this guy, and I can actually dimension this circle if you wanted to. Put that out here, and I'm going to go with shaft bore. There it is. Okay, so we can reuse that variable. And because now it's controlled by this. And so 5mm hex, I need a 5mm shaft. Whoops. I'm over here back in the configuration. Oh, I have to stop the sketch first. There we go. And then I need to bore this. So that's a sketch. So here is a, I'm going to rename this Hex Bore. I should have said Hex Bore sketch. I'll fix that in a minute. Okay. And now I want to extrude that. And I'm going to come down and I can actually just do the whole face of this. There we go. And it's going to go through all. And there we go. Through all should work. Oh, I forgot to, I have to change that. I forgot to do a remove through all. There we go. And it's extruding the wrong direction because I need to flip it. There we go. So now I have a hex bore. All right. So that's pretty cool. I think I'm still getting those round holes though. So I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this Hex Bore Extrude. Okay. Well, I guess if I do a round hole, I'm still getting a hex. So I want to be able to turn that hex guy off, right? So we need to fix that. All right. To do that, I'm going to do a configure features, and I want to be able to control the Hex Bore Suppression. Done. There we go. And so the hex bore should only be on down here when we've selected hex, and it should be off everywhere else. Like that. Okay, so now I'm getting my hex bore down there. That makes sense? Cool. All right. So now I can select. I can come down here, select a 3. So now I'm able to configure the bore, its diameter, right? So hey, that works pretty good. I like that. I haven't done the 6mm D shaft. We're going to do that towards the end. Now I'm going to go back over here. I want to, and again, I like to be very organized in how I'm doing things. So I think what I'd really like to do is have, this is very closely related to the shaft bore round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this drawing, I'm going to put it right up here. And so I'm going to put all of our bore extrudes sort of up here close together. And the reason for that is that things are evaluated in steps. And so we want the boss extruding to work properly. Yeah. All right. That's that. Hey, wouldn't it be cool? Hey, what if we were able to select the size of this set screw? Well, it turns out set screws, there are a fixed number of them. I'm just going to do the imperial versions of them. So here's the set screws. And so there are the sizes that we can use. And we're going to define some values that's going to be the height of the boss is going to be this column. And then I have another table somewhere that is the set screw tap diameter. So here's what we're going to do is I'm going to add another list. Okay. And this is going to be set screw size. All right. So set screw size, I want to control the tap hole diameter value. Okay. And I also am going to want to control the height of of the boss, or the depth. I called it the depth here. Okay, so I want to control that variable as well. So I'm going to come up here, boss depth, that value. All right, and done. So and I won't bore you with watching me type in values again, but so there's going to be the tap hole diameter, and the size of the set screw is going to be the name. So let me put this guy in here. So here's our list. Don't want the untitled one. Okay, we can delete that. Cool. And so if I come over here and start modifying, say a 440 screw is a small screw, okay, and you can see that the hub depth is changing based on the size of the screw, okay, because I wanted to leave enough meat. There's a 10, number 10, right? So that's pretty cool. That seems to be a nice bit of configuration there. Now, when I hit none, I kind of want to turn the set screw hole off because I'm just been told I don't want one. So configure features. I'm going to go down to set screw bore extrude. Okay. I want to control this and its suppression, and I will turn off the set screw hole there. Now, if they do select none, I still need to define a reasonable size for the depth of the hub. Okay, and so I've set this number to a reasonable value, and it could have been like 0.25 or something. Yeah, that works. 0.25 works. So now I'm able to define the size of the set screw. That'll turn on the hole. It'll adjust that appropriately. I can actually change the size of this to 1/2 inch. And I noticed that didn't change. Okay, don't know why. Let's go look at shaft bore. Shaft bore size, I don't know what happened here. This was supposed to be 5 millimeters. This was supposed to be 0.375 inches. And this should be 0.5 inches. Okay. Cool. All right. So had to go back and fix that little bug. I've got another little problem. See, the set screw is not really lined up with one of these flats, and I made an error somewhere. So I'd like to fix that. How am I going to fix that? Well, I think what I would like to have happen is I would like the plane that this hole is drawn on to align with one of these. So I need to go look at the drawing for the hex bore. Okay, so there's the drawing for the hex bore, and you can see that you can see, let's see, left, front, right. Oh, because we're in a sketch, front. Okay. This is aligned on a different plane. So I need to go see which plane that is actually aligned to. That is actually aligned to, they call it the front plane. Okay. So that means I want my drawing, which is currently on the top plane, to be on the front plane. Okay. So that means my set screw hole, set screw bore sketch, I need to change this to be on the front plane. Okay, there we go. So that just rotated that set screw up and around. So that was a little bug I needed to fix. All right. So we're looking pretty good here, folks. I think we've got a very nicely configurable part. Let's go try it here. So let's go with a 3/16 belt diameter. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. And let's just use a 3/8 hex. You can see that the hub changed, and an 832 set screw. Okay, that's pretty functional. You know, one other thing I might want to do is I actually might want to get rid of this the hub all together. Maybe I wanted a stack of these things and I want them to be very close together. So I could do that, and that would be really useful with a hex hub. Okay, so let's do one more configuration, and that is a checkbox. So here's a checkbox configuration, and we're going to call it set. Oh, let's see. Set screw hub, and it's going to be a checkbox. Okay, so there it is. And what I would like that variable to do is to actually control whether there's really a set screw hub at all. So I'm going to do configure features, and I guess I would like to control whether we actually extrude that part at all. So I'm going to control this, and I should be able to turn it off if it's off. So we'll watch what happens. So the hub just completely disappears. So that works. Okay, I think we have a very nicely configurable part here, and something worthy of actually putting in a library. So we go try this. Let's go try this. Oh, actually, I've now built this thing, and so let's. I'm going to do an assign material. I don't know about you, but I'm planning on 3D printing mine, so I'm going to make mine out of PETG. That is a PLA, PETG. They all weigh about the same. They're close enough. Okay, and it turns out that the printer I'm going to use, it turns out I have some yellow filament, so I'm going to change the color to a nice yellow. I can also change to a brighter yellow if I wanted to. I think I can do that by moving this bar up and down. Let's go with a slightly greener. Yeah, there, that's a nice yellow. So there's a nice yellow part. Okay. Oh, hey, so one other thing, when you're 3D printing, did you know that 3D printers are not accurate? And that you occasionally need to change the bore. You occasionally need to change the bore, especially on round holes. I had forgotten all about that. So what are we going to do about that? Well, I guess what I really could do is I could add an adjustment parameter. Let's go with an adjustment parameter. We're going to call this 3D print bias or adjustment. Okay, and it'll default to 0. And we don't really want big or small numbers, so I'm going to limit this to to 0.5 or to minus 0.5. Minus 0.5. That's a really big adjustment, but that's okay. And we'll also limit it to 0.5, so it'll have a range there. So that could be pretty useful. So I'm going to put that over here, and you'll see it show up in our list. Okay, and so to make that work, I have a couple of places where I would like to make that adjustment, and I'm going to do that in my, I'm going to do in the shaft bore round sketch. So I'm going to go find this. I'm going to double click this guy, and I'm actually going to add to it that 3D print adjustment variable. Okay. All right. And that's good. And oh, I probably want to, I can do the same thing in the hex. Let's do the same thing in the hex. So this guy plus the 3D print adjustment variable. There we go. And what that'll allow me to do is, sometimes you print one of these and you need to make it, 0.01 bigger or something like that. So that's just a nice little touch. And I was just showing you that you could do some min and max ranges, plus go in and make little modifications. All right, I'm liking this, guys. Here we go. So I'm going to close this up, and I think that I'm kind of done. So I'm going to go to the assembly. So I can look up here and I see that I've got a belt, and it is got 5-inch center distances, and it has 2 1-inch pulleys and a 3/16 belt. So if I do an insert of our new part, and it's going to be a 3/16 belt. And the shaft bore, we're going to go with, we'll just go with a 3/8 hex, 1 inch diameter. I would like to use an 832 set screw, and I don't need to adjust anything. So there we go. And there's a pulley. And I should be able to click it twice and get 2 of them. So we'll just set them right here for now. So there are our pulleys that we just made. Okay. Now to actually attach them, we're going to use this ball mate. And what a ball mate does is it takes a round, it'll do a curved surface with a center mark, and a curved surface with a center mark. There we go. And it'll associate them and make them nest. So that's what we wanted. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to do this guy and this guy. Solve it. Boom. There we go. Whoa, I didn't do that right, did I? I need to undo that last one. Let's do that last one again. All right, ball mate between, hang on a sec. Which one's off? It's this one. This one's wrong. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. Drag this guy out a little bit. Oh, hey. It won't let me drag it. Don't know why. Drag this. Can't drag anything. All right. Well, we'll do this again. Ball mate between this and that. Solve it. Oh, cool. Something went wrong. Do we know what? I don't know what. Ball mate, that thing against that thing. Okay, something's wrong. I don't know what. This pulley is good. This ball mate worked fine. I'm going to do a fix on this guy so I can move this other fellow around. There it goes. Huh. I don't know why it had a problem. Okay. Ball mate here. Ball mate there. Okay. I have no idea what just happened. That might have been a bug in OnShape. All right. Whew. Now, just like other things that are configured, I can always come in and change the configuration of one or both of these. And it'll normally put up this little configuration tab. Oh, I see what's happening. My internet has gotten slow. It snowed outside, so there we go. So now now I can do things like I can decide that I really want to use a 5mm hex on this side, and I can regenerate that part and regenerate. And so there it is. It now generated a different bore, or I can make it a I can actually make it a 5/16 or a 5/16 round instead, regenerate that. So you can come in and adjust these parts. I can also decide that I don't want to set screw hub on this one, and that'll turn that off. Okay. I can also try and do a that isn't what I wanted to do. I can try and do a much larger, like 1/2-inch hex. So I was just running through a few of these to a little test to make sure it works. It looks good. All right. Cool. Now, the other nice thing you can do is you can actually select on both of them. They have the same configuration panel, and you can actually configure both of them to be identical. So you can decide that this is you want them to be both 1/2-inch rounds, right? So I can change both of them. They should both change. Okay. So anyway, there you go. That so what is it that we just went through here is you watch me add a whole bunch of configuration options to these pulleys. And you saw how we used the configuration manager. Oops, I need to be in the right document. This configuration manager is really flexible in allowing you to turn things on and off. You can enable and disable things. You can even change sketches on features. So there's a play with it. It's actually a lot of fun. The tutorial that's available in the OnShape tutorials does a pretty good job of walking through this stuff. And then you just got to kind of sit down and play with it. All right, I think this video is probably long enough. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you found this useful.